Good evening, everyone. We're now on part three and the last tier list about the Academy Awards. And now we're going to rank the Best Picture nominees. So, how are you feeling there, Wes?
I am doing so well. I'm so excited that we finally made it to the end. I think
Yeah.
that Best Picture is kind of the most exciting thing overall. Of course, we've been talking about all of these performances, but it's kind of, all of these performances that come together to make a movie, which at the end of the
Yeah.
day is what we love. So I'm excited to get into these Best Picture nominees.
So, unlike before that we arrange our nominees alphabetically, here we're going to start first with the films that we already discussed and mentioned when we ranked the performances. So, we're going to start with The Power of the Dog. Personally, I was initially hesitant to call The Power of the Dog my favorite film of 2021, but after several rewatches, I finally concluded that The Power of the Dog is my personal favorite out of the Best Picture nominees of 2021. What about you?
Yes, yes, definitely same. If y'all listen to our other videos, you probably already know how much we love the power of the dog. And it is crazy to me because when I first started hearing about this movie, I was intrigued and everything, but I never expected this to be a movie that I would kind of cling on to as one that I really embraced and would be championing for the Best Picture winner. But at the end of the day, after watching all of these movies, most of them more than once, I really can say that I think that The Power of the Dog is the most well made movie. And it's also my favorite. I just think that the themes of toxic masculinity are very relevant. And just like it's very interesting to see the journey that these characters go on, and it seems like a slow movie, but if you really pay attention, there is a lot happening, and I think that the last 30 minutes of this movie are some of the best or my favorite 30 minutes or ending of a movie ever. So I think that people maybe seem think it seems boring and they don't necessarily want to give it a chance, but if you really like dig in deep into the themes, then I think that there's like a lot to unpack with this movie, and it really isn't the boring slow movie that a lot of people seem to think.
Yeah. I mean, it's got A plus acting, A plus storyline, A plus direction from Jane Campion. You can't spell champion without Campion, by the way.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. I just
Yeah,
love
I
her
mean,
so much. She's so methodical. You can tell how much care went into every single detail of this film, and that's why like I know we're not really getting into directors in the series, but she also, without a doubt, hands down, has my vote for best director as well, and I sincerely hope that she wins because I think that she really deserves it.
me too. And because for us, the Power of the Dog is the champion, so as early as now, we are putting it in Oscar goes.
Yes, and I'm trying not to jinx the movie and get too excited about its prospects of winning because I feel like most of the time my favorite doesn't win Best Picture.
Mhm.
So the fact that my favorite is the front runner is exciting, but
Yeah.
then I don't want to get too excited because I feel like the Oscars just usually end up disappointing.
Yeah.
So I just really want this for this movie. I feel like it would just, oh, it would be such a good Best Picture winner.
If it eventually wins, it will be one of the most deserved and not to mention geniusly crafted movies. So that's the Power of the Dog right up on top. And let's proceed to biopic about Richard Williams and of course his daughter Serena and Venus Williams, who are well known when it comes to tennis, King Richard. So what do you think about King Richard?
So I actually really like King Richard. Whenever I was watching the SAG Awards the other night and just seeing that quartet up on stage, presenting, an award, I thought that they were all just so lively and seemed so happy to be there. And that really kind of reinforced the message of the movie to me and just like the positive energy that King Richard, really emulates. I think that it's a great movie. It's not my favorite movie. It's not one that I see myself going back and rewatching a million times, but it's one that just makes me feel warm and happy inside at the end of the day. And I think that that's an important aspect of a movie. Sometimes you do need movies that just make you, feel content and warm and fuzzy at the end. And this is that movie for me. So I do see myself revisiting this movie down the line. Maybe in a few years, every few years, I'll give it a rewatch. So I definitely think that it's a very solid movie. I wouldn't say it's not even in my top five in this category, but I still really like it. I just don't think it's the strongest.
Its saving graces are, of course, the performances by Will Smith and Angelina Ellis, and even the kids.
Mhm.
But at the same time, I really, really found Venice competitions really a nail biter. I had low expectations prior to watching this. I was initially irked because of the screen time. I think it was too
Right.
long. Yeah,
Yes,
but
agreed.
at the same time, for me, entertainment value is still important. Why it's not my favorite or even the best out of all the movies nominated in this category. Personally, I think it's Lace.
Yeah, I would put it in Slate as well.
So next, we move on to the only black and white nominee of this lineup, which is Belfast. So in terms of aesthetics, I really, really like Belfast because I'm a sucker when it comes to black and white stuff and period pieces. But unfortunately, as you mentioned when we were discussing the Belfast Grandpa and Belfast Grandma's performances, it was more of style over substance. I wasn't genuinely and emotionally invested in what's happening. There are a lot of things that are happening in Belfast, but its greatest accomplishment, its MVP, is Katrina Ball. So I don't really have much anything to say because it's not a really original movie. So I expected more. I just wasn't hooked. It's probably the shortest movie out of all, next to Coda. I think those are the shortest, but at the same time, it feels like a lot happened when, for me, nothing happened at all. It didn't impact me emotionally.
Yeah, so I was gonna say the biggest strength of this movie is its 90-minute runtime.
Hmm.
I literally cried tears of joy when I saw how short this movie was. So honestly, bonus points for that. But with that being said, this movie is still pretty low on my list. It's actually my second lowest in this category. And that's not to say it's a bad movie. I thought that it was sweet and cute. Like you said, it's really just a lot of nothing. It's just like some pretty vignettes here and there. And they were engaging. I didn't feel like I was really bored or anything. But at the end of the movie, I was just kind of left wondering, like, what was the point? Like, oh, that's it. Especially when you have like such thematically rich themes in other movies in this category. I just think that this one it doesn't really hold up.
Yeah.
I do agree that Katrina Balfe is the MVP of this movie. I think that it's just a shame that she did not get nominated when she's pretty much carrying this movie on her shoulders. In my opinion, it's sad for her. Hopefully, she has another chance in the future. But yeah, I watched Belfast once. I don't feel like I ever need to watch it again. But I
Me too.
also didn't think it was terrible. I just think it's
Mhm.
a fine movie. But if it's a best picture winner, I think that it would be one of the weaker best picture winners that we've ever had.
Yeah.
And like I said, I just think that there are a lot more strong contenders this year. So I really don't want to see Belfast get this award.
To be honest, I want to put it in not our fave because it's
Yes, that's
literally
that's
not
what
my
I was
fave.
thinking too. I don't think that it deserves to be in the very bottom because I don't find it, atrocious or anything like that.
Yeah, me
It
too.
just it wasn't a serve, Kenneth. It wasn't a serve.
Okay, so not our favorite is. Now we move on to Coda. Coda is just like what I mentioned in Belfast, one of the shortest films in this lineup, and another one that I didn't expect to love. It has a lot going on. There's conflicts within the family, the fashion business, pursuing the American dream, far from your family, and even love. It's a conventional story, not the most original, but at the same time, what I wanted to find in Belfast, I found in Coda instead. It was poignant, it was sweet, it was heartbreaking. It was a tearjerker without being too sugar coated or too sentimental. There are a lot of scenes, especially the dramatic ones, that are dangerously close to becoming pretentious and at the same time corny, but it's the strength of the ensemble cast that what made me love Coda.
Yes, I totally agree. This one's kind of in the same boat to me as King Richard, although I think it's a better movie that I like more. But this is another movie that just really leaves you with feelings of just like happiness and love for your family and love for cinema. Like after I watched this movie, of course I was like sobbing at the end because I was just so overwhelmed by
Me
emotion.
too. I cried
I
a
like I
lot
was
of times.
same. And like I love that. I love when a movie elicits that kind of reaction from me, especially when it's like a heartfelt kind of reaction. So I don't know. I just really love Coda so much. Kind of the same that you were saying. I did not expect to enjoy this movie so much. And right now, I have it. I think I have it at number 4 out of my rankings for this category. But every day, I feel like I like it a little bit more. And it could potentially move up for me. I don't know. I feel like this is a movie that I'm going to be showing to friends forever. And another thing, so I saw this tweet the other day that was saying how basically Coda is pretty much a lifetime movie just with better acting, and I really feel like it could almost fall into that category if the ensemble wasn't so strong because the script is somewhat cliche.
Yeah,
um and we all knew where it was going to go, and that's fine because I don't necessarily mind that as long as I still feel like it made an impact on me at the end of the day,
that's what
and it
matters
did.
most.
That's
Yeah.
what matters. So as long as I come out of it feeling something for these characters in this movie, then I don't mind that I could see where it was going. And I also just want to give a quick shout out to the cast of Coda for winning SAG Ensemble.
Oh,
I just think that it was such
congratulations.
a wonderful moment for them to see them up on stage and just be celebrated for this incredible piece of art that they clearly all care about so much. You can see the passion that really went behind this project. I feel like it's kind of like the little movie that could. It started out as a little indie at Sundance, and now it just keeps gaining momentum. And now, it's a Best Picture nominee. It won the SAG Ensemble Award. So,
Even Troy Kotsur
I
won
just
Best
love
Supporting Actor in
Coda.
SAG.
Yes, Troy won. I just love Coda. I just love Coda.
Yeah, so in my opinion, I think Coda slays.
Yeah, I would say Slays as well.
Wow. All right. So let's move on to, I think, the greatest competitor of Power of the Dog when it comes to not only picture but also director. I mean, it's a bloodbath between Jane Campion and Steven Spielberg. So we have West Side Story. I really, really love this version of West Side Story. The 1961 and 2021 versions, they are completely different movies, although, of course, the DNA of the plot is the same, a musical adaptation of William Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. I love the song. I love the aesthetic. I think out of all the Best Picture nominees, West Side Story and later Nightmare Alley have the beautiful production design. And also, there's the acting. I was disappointed that the ensemble cast of West Side Story wasn't nominated for a SAG award. I'm happy for Coda, but I think that West Side Story should have gotten it instead because it has Rachel Zegler, the Jets, the Sharks, Rita Moreno as Valentina, and of course, the MVP of the film, Ariana DeBose, who I think is now the front runner for the Best Supporting Actress race. What I love most about this version of West Side Story compared to 1961 is how they gave a lot of space and respect for the Puerto Rican community. They casted talented Puerto Ricans who can sing, who can dance, who can act. Like before, in which they cast Russians, even Greeks, and some Americans. Only Rita Moreno was the sole Puerto Rican during the 1961 version. So I commend Steven Spielberg for honoring the Puerto Rican community. For me, even though I'm not Puerto Rican, so I don't have really the say when it comes to being honored or being respected. But to me, he paid tribute to the Puerto Ricans. And I hope other filmmakers will feature other ethnicities, other cultures as well. But at the same time, there are two things that are holding back when it comes to West Side Story. First is the love at first sight aspect. I'm not really a fan of Romeo and Juliet. So right from the start, the love story between Maria and Tony, I don't buy it. And speaking of Tony, I think one of the reasons why I'm not keen on putting it in the Oscar goes to is because of that early Tony, which I think is terrible, especially during the scene when Valentina confessed that Maria died. I mean, the facial expressions
The
were
expression, it's
embarrassing.
just,
I
yeah,
mean, he was miscast.
yeah.
There were some scenes that he feels lost and misplaced. I get the fact that he's pretty much an outcast of the Jets because he was an ex-convict. He didn't want to be involved in the gang anymore. anymore. But at the same time, I also think that the actor who played Tony was lost in this place. Spielberg should have hired another actor for Tony. I mean, Marie isn't my favorite character in this film because I find her beliefs flawed. I mean, why would you have sex with the person that just literally killed your brother? But
Yeah.
this is one of the times wherein the performance rescued the ridiculousness of the characters. I would love to see more of Rachel Zegler because of how beautiful her performance was.
The crazy thing about West Side Story to me is that I've seen the show on stage, I think 3 different times, and I've seen the 1961 movie, and I mean, I'm just gonna be honest, I didn't like the movie. I really didn't like it, and I didn't like the stage show. All 3 times, I just wasn't into it. I never have been. Never been, too much into Romeo and Juliet either. So maybe that's why the story is just like not really my favorite. But I came out of this movie surprisingly obsessed. I just like literally think that it's such a good movie. And I chalk that up to, I guess, Spielberg and everything that he's doing because the text, like you were saying, just the cinematography, the editing, the choreography, the production design. First off, the colors, everything,
Yeah.
like it's just a feast for your eyes. You could watch this movie with no sound, and I would still be enthralled for the 2 hours and 30 minutes. Just watching everything that's going on. It's so meticulously crafted, very similar to Jane Campion. I agree that I think that Spielberg is right up there with her in terms of this director race, as far as how well to put together their movie was. So love that. Second off, the cast. I truly love this cast so much. You were talking about Rachel Zegler. I came out of this movie thinking that she was the strongest performance of the film. When I first saw it, she's the one who left an impression on me the most, especially in those last 10 minutes. Her acting for someone who's so young and pretty much inexperienced at this point, this was her first movie. All she had done was like stage productions. She's a star. I'm so glad
Yeah.
that she won that Golden Globe. I hope that that opens doors for her.
I hope
I
she
would
got
have
nominated
loved to
as
see
well.
her. Yes, I would have loved to see her in the Best Actress race because I think that she really deserves it. I think that Mike Feist, who plays Riff, I would have loved to see
Oh my
him in the
god.
Best
He
Supporting
was
Actor race. I
snubbed.
thought that he was great.
Him and the actor who played Bernardo.
Yes, David Alvarez. That's what I
Oh
was
my
going to say. The
god.
3 of them should have been nominated here. I don't know why their performances weren't gaining as much traction. And I'm very happy for Ariana DeBose. Like you said, I definitely think that she's going to win this Oscar at this point. I haven't seen any reason to doubt her. And that's great. I think that she's amazing, and she does deserve the award, even if she isn't personally my pick. But I really would have liked to see those other 3 get some love as well. But that's fine. I'll just love on them myself on Twitter. That's okay with me. I really love West Side Story. Pretty much like you were saying, the biggest flaw is Ansel Elgort as Tony.
That's the only aspect
and
that's like why Spielberg why.
yes,
I
that's the
mean,
only thing that isn't perfect about this movie to me. And like, I don't even think his acting is always that bad. There were some scenes where I actually
yeah.
thought that he was good, specifically in the cool scene with the gun.
Yeah.
When he's trying to convince them not to go to the Rumble. I thought that he was actually very good in that scene. But his singing, he just was not him singing with Rachel Zegler. It was like watching like a
He was
high
just opening his
school
mouth.
choir boy
He was just
singing
opening his
along with
mouth.
a Broadway star. Yes, it was like she overpowered him. She outsang him.
He
She's
was
just such a star,
expressionless.
and
He
he is
was
not. Yeah, she has so
expressionless.
much charisma, and I feel like she just like stole every scene that they were
Yeah.
in, and he's like the complete afterthought of this movie, which he really is the main character, so he shouldn't be the afterthought.
Yeah.
And I feel like this could have been just an even stronger movie with a better performance. When I watch this movie, I just pretend that Ansel Elgort isn't there. And I kind of just ignore him and pay attention to everyone else. So I don't
Yeah.
know what was up with that casting choice. It's confusing to me. And then, of course, we don't really need to get into it, but There's, some controversy around Ansel Elgort as well. So yeah, I'm just not a fan.
You know what? Despite our nitpicks for this film, I mentioned before that this is the greatest contender of the Power of the Dog. So I guess that West Side Story slays.
Yes, I definitely agree.
All right, so we are now done with the first half of the nominees. So let's look up next to Don't Look Up. Right off the bat, I am not a fan of Adam McKay's humor. I mean, The Big Short and especially Vice. Those are one of the worst movies that I've ever watched. So when you watch Don't Look Up, it's kind of a step up to his filmography because it's funny, it's comical. I didn't expect that I would laugh in a film like this about a comet racing towards Earth. And there's a moment that it became cheesy and offensive, especially Jonah Hill. I don't know what the hell is he doing in this movie. And the voice, Mark Rylance. And
Oh my
also, I have
gosh.
to say, Meryl Streep just got eaten by a dinosaur. What the hell?
This movie is so ridiculous.
And
The
also,
more that you
what's
think about, like Meryl Streep
yeah,
getting eaten in,
by a
yeah.
dinosaur? I would like to mention this. I don't know what Timothy Chalamet was doing in this movie aside from skateboarding and kissing Jennifer Lawrence because, you know, it was just there just to add to the Oscar nominated. This is a great cast in terms of their reputation and in terms of their Oscar records. So I think a lot of people will still probably vote for Don't Look Up, but actually it's my top four. I didn't expect that I would like it. Also, it's a social commentary about how incompetent most of the time the government is when it comes to urgent crisis. Don't Look Up is a message about not looking up to those highly influential people who are just not doing anything good when it comes to social political dilemmas. What about you? Do you look up to Don't Look Up?
So I do. The first time I watched this movie, I guess I mean, I knew what to expect. I knew that it was going to be a satire, and I think I was just a little overwhelmed by everything that was going on. And so I kind of walked away being like, okay, like I see what they were going for. I don't know how I felt about the execution, but I rewatched it and I actually came away being like, okay, that's actually like a pretty damn good movie. Just because I feel like I'm in their situation all the time, living here, like when there's so many things going on that are terrible. And like, I actually liked Meryl Streep's performance because it just reminds me of He Who Must Not Be Named, the 45th President of the United States, which, like, obviously that was the point, but I just like was resonating with her so much because that's exactly how it felt having that certain person in charge. And it was just like, I just wanted to like throw stuff at the wall all the time. The terrible decisions being made or like things not happening. Like I
And her
wanted to
wig.
feed him to a dinosaur. Yes. Like, so I don't know. But actually I liked her performance only because of that aspect. But I far and away, I think that the best part of this movie is the cast. Obviously, Leonardo DiCaprio is my favorite actor, and I thought that he was actually really good in this movie. I feel like it was a different type of role. Usually, he plays much more serious. And I don't know. I really liked him. Jennifer Lawrence is another one of my all-time favorite actresses, and it was such an exciting thing to see her return to acting for me, and to see Leonardo DiCaprio and Jennifer Lawrence together in a movie is like my Super Bowl. Like I just literally loved their dynamic. I thought that the
Yeah.
two of them were the best part of this movie. I thought that they kind of carried it. Um, so yes, I really liked that. I also want to give a special shout out to Ariana Grande because I thought that
Yeah,
she
oh my
stole the
god.
film. She's
Yes.
hilarious.
Yeah.
She
I like
like
her
she's actually
character.
so funny. When she calls Leonardo DiCaprio an old fuck, I laugh every time.
Her performance is still very much like Ariana Grande herself, real life, but at the
Oh,
same time,
100%.
yeah. And sometimes, you don't have to overcomplicate matters, but I really enjoyed and was really entertained by Ariana's presence here.
To me, I think that the biggest problem with this movie, like you said, it's too long, and I didn't need to see Leonardo DiCaprio's character having an affair. Like, I really liked Kate Blanchett in this movie. I always love her. I thought that she was hilarious. But, like, I didn't need the subplot of him having an affair with her and like everything that was going on with them. I feel like that all could have been trimmed out and made his
It's a
character less
throwaway.
likable. Yeah, it's just like that did not move the plot along to me. So it's like it was just in there to give Kate Blanchett more to do, which is fine. Like I'm always here for Kate Blanchett having more to do, but I feel like they could have somehow incorporated her in a different way, not with that subplot of him having an
I
affair.
also wasn't a big fan of Jonah Hill, just repeating what Meryl Streep's character said. I
Yeah.
mean, I get what he's going for, but sometimes it reminds me of James Corden. He's trying to be funny when he isn't at all.
So that's a great comparison.
Yeah.
I try hard.
So as much as I consider Don't Look Up to be an improvement on Adam McKay's filmography, it's really a tug of war decision for me. Like it's on the middle. There are some positive things that I like. There are some negative things that I like, and overall they just weigh the same. So for me, I want to put Don't Look Up in had potential. What about you?
I agree. I agree because I thought that the idea was great. Obviously, they were mirroring everything that's going on with, COVID-19. And of course, in our society in real life, we're also having this global warming crisis. And a lot of people just don't seem to be doing anything about it. And even though the messaging is heavy handed in this movie, which I think bothered some people, it didn't bother me because that's how it is in real life and people still aren't doing anything about it. So like that actually like really resonated with me that they're doing literally everything they can to try to save the country, and like the people in charge are just bumbling idiots who only care about getting rich and taking care of themselves. And if they had focused on that and left, like I said, the subplot, Randall Mindy having an affair subplot out, I'm sure that there was some other fat that they could have cut, then this actually could have been like a really solid movie. But it just had a little too much fluff that didn't really hold up for me at the end of the day.
So we're down to our last four. This is probably the only Asian film in this lineup. I like that there are a lot of Asian films nominated recently. It all started with Parasite, who was one of the best picture winners
Totally
ever,
agree.
and then followed by Minari last year, which I wasn't really a big fan of, but I still liked. Promising Young Woman was my best film last year.
Right.
And then now we have Drive My Car, which is a Japanese film. So I really love creative stories about plays, about movies, because I'm a cinephile. I'm a movie person, just like you are. But at the same time, its execution is pretty repetitive and dull, especially in the first 40 minutes before we even see the title card. We see the wife of the protagonist discussing her ideas about the play while and then it just goes on and on and on until she has a brain hemorrhage, which is like, what the hell? I mean, it came out of nowhere and I understand why. And at the same time, if you look at the plot of the IMDb, after all the conversations about the play, Uncle Vanya, centerpiece of Drive My Car is about the relationship of the driver and the passenger. And I think they do not have really much that of a relationship to begin with. They just kind of opened up and that's it. And the driver didn't have as much as screen time and contribution to whatever the action or plot or character arc the passenger was involved with. So it's just fun to see the red car. It's good. It's shiny, but storytelling wise, and
the red car is its own character. Let's be honest here.
The only two actors I remember was, of course, the male protagonist and the young man who cheated on his wife before. Those two are the ones who pumping life into this movie. But otherwise, I was pretty bored. I don't watch it again. It's the longest of the Best Picture nominees. I mean, 3 hours about doing the same thing over and over again drove me insane. So how about you?
Yes. First off, I want to say I definitely agree with you about the Asian representation in the Oscars. I think that it is so important. And I'm someone who has only been getting into film within the last few years, and I haven't had so much exposure to foreign films. But I think that it's exciting and important that films like these are getting into the Oscar race, because it gives people like me who are still, trying to, learn everything and catch up on different movies. Like, it gives me an opportunity to see different types of filmmaking and styles from different countries. So I like that aspect. And then, of course, just the representation matters. It really is important to see, different cultures' stories represented in a race and an event that we put so highly on a pedestal. So that's really exciting. But I agree with everything you said. This movie is the epitome to me, what I refer to as a lot of movies as pretty but boring. It was beautiful. It was very well made. It was well acted. The story was very well written, but it just wasn't the most compelling for me. And I think that a big problem is that A, like you said, it's 3 hours. B, you have to read subtitles, which is fine, but you have the subtitles. And then on top of that, the subject matter is very deep. This isn't something that you can just kind of watch and I feel like be able to just pick up on all the themes and everything that Hamaguchi is trying to say just off the bat. Like, you really have to think about what the characters are saying and the themes that Hamaguchi is trying to get across. And so when you put all of those things together, I feel like I felt a little maybe hindered or just not into it as much because I felt a little bit overstimulated by all of these things coming at me at once. The 3 hour runtime, the subtitles, and the extremely thick plot. I mean, the plot isn't thick, but the themes are thick. And as someone who is a movie lover, obviously I'm in there trying to dissect the themes and figure out like what Hamaguchi is really trying to say. So I feel like maybe this movie probably plays better on a second watch. Unfortunately, it's so long. Probably not going to rewatch it definitely anytime soon.
Me too.
So I think it was fine. It was a beautiful story. I liked the ending. I liked seeing the arc that the characters went on. I thought that it was beautiful, but I just don't think it was as compelling as most of the other movies in this lineup.
The film is best summarized by this statement. It's all about top, top, top. And because of that,
Totally.
I want to put it in not our fave, just like that. But it's not the worst of the of this lineup, but at the same time, it wasn't the best as well. So I guess not our fave. Okay, next we go to another very long movie.
Oh,
I don't know, it's Dune.
it's Dune. That's all you have to say. It's Dune.
Yeah, it's I'm Dune over it. Anyway, so Dune for me is like Star Wars Episode 4 and New Hope. It has a lot of sand, and the only thing that I take away from it is the worm.
Yes, we
And to
love the
some
little booty hole worms. That was our favorite part of the movie.
and to some extent Oscar Isaac. What I was really disappointed in this movie is that it features a compelling story when you read it on paper, but at the same time showcases Timothy Chalamet and Zendaya, but at the same time it's like what I
She was
said
like
on,
barely in it though.
yeah, Dune is the opposite of Drive My Car. I mean, Dune is action, action, action with
Exactly.
less stuff. But I wasn't really invested emotionally to the characters. Every second, I'm just being reminded of Star Wars again and again, and how good and amazing the first Star Wars movie was. So, to be honest, I don't really have much anything to say about it. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, basically what you said, this story interesting because I feel like there is so much story, but then also it was very simple, but still somehow like really complex to where I was getting confused a lot. I'm not the target for this movie. I'm not really a sci-fi person. Obviously, it's a technical marvel. I saw it in theaters, and even though I saw it in IMAX, I was bored by I'd like the last hour. I was checking my phone literally like every 10 minutes, which
Me
is I
too.
really try hard not to check the time when I'm watching movies because I want to stay invested. But I would be like, okay, surely this movie is about to end. And then I'll check, and it was only like 4 minutes from when I last checked. And I'm like, oh, it's been 20 minutes at least. Wrong. I was getting so antsy in the theater. Like, there was so much, honestly, that I felt like could have been cut from the end when they're just like running from place to place to place. And we have like,
Yeah.
it's just these like long scenes of them like running through the sand and like hiding in the bunker. And that's fine. Like, I understand that it's an action movie and that we need that. But I didn't think that we needed quite as much. I feel like this movie could have been 2 hours instead of 2.5. And it would have been better for it, honestly. This movie is like really beloved by some people, and so like I'm glad that they have this movie to hold on to. And I really do like the cast. Obviously, Timothy Chalamet. I thought that he was really good here. I didn't think that he was doing anything special necessarily, but I don't think that the character itself like lends him to be able to do anything special. From what I understand, part two, he will have much more of an arc. So I am looking forward to that. I love Rebecca Ferguson. I thought that she was great in this movie. She was serving so many looks. Obviously, Oscar Isaac looked so hot. Jason Momoa looked so hot. So it was fine. Probably will never watch it again. I didn't even try to rewatch it for this ranking because I felt like I wasn't gonna get anything extra out of it a second time.
Yeah, but it's not terrible either. I just think
No,
that
no, it's not terrible.
I just don't think that we're the target bullseye
No.
audience for this movie.
Right.
I guess not our fave.
Yeah, I think not our fave.
And one of the films that I was really, really, really annoyed that it's featured in this lineup is Licorice Pizza. So it has a very unique title, but at the same time, I'm not really fond of the storyline and the chemistry between the two leads, Cooper Hoffman and Alana Haim. It was non-existent. It was so trying hard to be some sort of 70s nostalgia coming of age storyline. A lot of the dialogues felt forced for me and pretentious and obnoxious, especially the Asian or the Japanese.
Oh my
scene.
god.
I don't know what went into the screenwriter's head at the time, and they decided to insult the Japanese community because of
Yes.
those.
You see how Paul Thomas Anderson was defending that choice in an interview? Someone
Yeah,
asked him about it, and he was defending that choice and like basically saying that people are dumb for being offended. I was
well,
like,
he's dumb for
sir.
defending it, for defending
I'm
himself.
like, this is not the hill that you want to die on, buddy.
We already had Mickey Rooney as Mr. Yosha in Breakfast at Tiffany's, and while
Right.
we don't have a yellow face performance in Licorice Pizza, it was just offensive and
Might as
insulting.
well have been, you know?
Yeah, I was really interested to see how their platonic relationship would unfold between a 15-year-old and a 25-year-old. But at the same time, they were just kind of uttering the dialogues and trying to be cool when in fact they are not. How about you? What's your take about Licorice Pizza?
I feel like a lot of people really like this movie, and I wish that I was one of those people, but just sitting in the theater, I was just like, this is the movie that everyone's raving about?
Yeah.
It
I don't
is
get the
not-
hype.
No, absolutely not. And I've seen people defend, because obviously, like, the big discourse around this movie that I've seen is, you know, she's a 25-year-old who is falling in love with a 15-year-old. As someone who was 25 when I watched this movie, I could not wrap my head around developing romantic relationships for a high schooler. And I know that they didn't really act on it or anything. Like, it was done, I guess, tastefully, you could say. But, like, I just couldn't even get into the story because I just could never, ever see myself in that situation. And therefore, I couldn't resonate with the main plot line of the movie. And then it was similar to Belfast for me in a way where there wasn't really like a plot. It was just a bunch of like vignettes thrown together. In this case, instead of like 1960s Ireland, we're getting 1970s LA, which was nice to look at. Like, I thought that visually, I really did enjoy watching it.
For some reason, the optics reminds me of Pulp Fiction. It has this really iconic look and feel to it, but it's not a good sign if the film is romantic comedy and there wasn't even romantic or comedic aspects at all.
The only part of this movie that I liked was Bradley Cooper. That was the only part of this movie that I would be like willing to watch again. I never want to watch this movie again. Like, I actively will stay away from watching this movie again. A waste of my time.
In the end, I will just rather eat licorice and pizza separately and not watch Licorice Pizza.
Yes, and why was it called Licorice Pizza? I tried to Google it. No one could tell me. I'm
It's a
confused.
slang.
Did I miss something? It's slang?
Licorice Pizza is the slang for vinyl records because they're black and shiny, just like the licorice candy. And because the shape is circular, it reminds me of a pizza. Does it match to the tone and the message of the thing?
No.
I don't think so.
Did this movie even have anything? Like, no.
It's all about
No.
waterbeds.
Literally, like, and I saw that originally this movie was going to be called Soggy Bottom, and they changed it, and they should have left it as Soggy Bottom, I think.
Yeah, because it's appropriate for the film. And
Yeah, it actually, like, encapsulates what the movie is about.
Yeah,
Licorice
yeah.
Pizza, like that doesn't tell you anything about this movie. But hang on, let me just say one more thing. I have been bashing this movie. I did think that Alana Haim was actually really good. Like
Yeah,
I quite liked her as an actress, and I'm
me
interested
too.
to see her do more. And I thought that her family, because that was her real family who played her family in the movie, I thought that they were hilarious. Besides Bradley Cooper, they were the best part to me.
She's the one who adds energy and charisma to this film. She is so magnetic, absorbing, and captivating, just like Rachel Zegler in West Side Story. Because this is Alona Haim's debut film, I want to see more of her in the future.
Same, definitely same. There was a lot of conversation about if she would end up getting an Oscar nomination, and I feel like she was probably pretty close. Like I think she probably was either the sixth person or the seventh. Do you think that she deserved to get an Oscar nomination for this performance?
No, because I wanted the lead from the worst person in the world and
She
Rachel
was great.
Zegler to fill in the spots occupied by Nicole Kidman and
I
Jessica
agree.
Chastain. That's my take. Also Isabel Furman in The Novice. Watch out for her.
I need to see The Novice. I love Isabel Furman. Orphan Stands for Life. I've
Yeah.
heard nothing but great things about The Novice. I'm definitely going to be on the lookout.
So Licorice Pizza is the why Academy why of this. No.
I agree. I totally agree. So glad we're on the same page. I was scared that you were gonna like it, and then I was like, "Oh, what are we? How are we gonna do this if you end up loving it and I just fucking hate it?" Luckily, that
And
didn't happen.
you're correct. I also anticipated I would like it or love it even. I didn't. It's not my cup of tea. And also not my cup of tea is our final film in this lineup, Nightmare Alley. There are two positive things that I like about Nightmare Alley. Aside from the optics, again, the cinematography, the lighting, the aesthetics. And also the only scene that I would take away from this movie is, you know this, Tony Collette and Bradley Cooper in the bathtub, and that's it. That's the movie for me. I was stunned how this film is filled to the brim with a lot of versatile actors like Kate Blanchett and Toni Collette, Rooney Mara, Bradley Cooper, of
Willem
course. There's
Dafoe.
also Willem Dafoe. But this film wasted their talents. I don't know why the hell they signed up for this film, probably to look good in a period piece. For some reason, I expected it to be a darker, grimmer version of American Horror Story Freak Show, but there's no Dandy Moth like character in this film, and I would have loved to see it, but yeah, it's just not on my alley.
Oh my god, gave you nightmares.
What's your take about Nightmare Alley?
I'll be honest. I will unabashedly say I love Nightmare Alley. I thought that it
Oh
was
my
great.
god. Mhm.
I feel like I'm on an island by myself defending this movie, me and the Academy members who voted it into Best Picture, and that's fine. That's fine. I will go to bat. I mean, I don't think it's the best movie of the year, and I definitely had a different idea of what it was going to be than it was. I was expecting like evil forces inside the carnival, which there were, but I guess I was expecting like supernatural.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And the only evilness in this movie was, it came from humankind. And I
Mhm.
think that actually resonated with me more afterwards. It was an interesting watch for me because the whole time I was watching very closely, just wondering, like, what is the point of this movie? I felt a little let down that we weren't getting these supernatural elements, especially the first half. It really takes its time
It's too
setting everything
slow.
up. I didn't mind that much because I just loved the production design of the carnival so much. And then, of course, we had Toni Collette. Even though, like you said, they did waste her talents, but she was in there for the first like 30 minutes, I feel like, and then she kind of just fell off. I really liked the first half, but then the second half, once we finally got Kate Blanchett and it really took off, I just thought it was great. The last scene just really stuck with me when you realize like how full circle the movie comes.
Yeah.
From him interacting with the jerk at the very beginning to him becoming the jerk because of
Yes.
his own actions. Like, yes, it's a slow movie, but it's really just a 2.5 hour tale of why you shouldn't use, manipulation tactics to try to get what you want out of
To
people the
deceive
way that he
people.
was. Obviously, Stan was a terrible person by the end, and it's just because he was consumed with greed and power. We saw his ultimate downfall. So I can see what Del Toro was doing because he was just taking his time to show you a man who went from just regular kind of middle of the road person to someone who was very powerful to someone who was literally in the slums. And I don't know, it like really affected me. I thought that Bradley Cooper's acting at the very end was the best acting I've ever seen from him. I don't know, I just loved Nightmare Alley. I thought it was so good. But I understand why people don't like it. I love a slow burn. The ending paid off for me enough to where I think that I can really appreciate this movie.
I think this is the film in which we'll probably contend because look at how balanced the tier list so far. It's like a vertical seesaw.
Yeah, I'm actually shocked because I thought that they were mostly going to end up all in the bottom.
To be honest, I didn't like the film. I also want to put it right alongside the Chris Pizza and Wild Academy. I was just bored.
No!
Okay. So
let's talk this through because I was willing to do up to had potential because I feel like even though I liked it, I feel like they did have potential that they just Del Toro had that amazing cast. He had the amazing set. He had the cinematography. It's just that the script, while it worked for me, I feel like it definitely could have been reworked to be much snappier and probably more impactful. So even though I would put it in Slays, I'm willing to go down.
Too high. Speaking of go down, why not put it in Not Our Fave?
Okay, I will reluctantly agree.
Well, is it had potential or Not Our Fave? Let's decide.
I mean, do you think that it didn't have potential even?
When it comes to stuff like this, the only question I ask myself is, will I watch it again? My answer is no.
That's so sad. I really thought that you were gonna like it too. I was like, oh, I don't know. I hyped myself up.
Well, only Bradley Cooper. But
wait, okay, I do have a question. Do you think that Bradley Cooper deserved an Oscar nomination?
No.
No. Oh my god. Okay, what about Kate Blanchett?
No, either.
Oh my god, she was so good at the end. She was so powerful.
I don't want to see any nominees from this film. So, is it had potential or Not Our Fave?
I feel like had potential is a fair in the middle.
Okay. All right, so let's now rank the films which tied for the same spots. It Slays, Had Potential, and Not Our Fave. Let's start first with Not Our Fave. So for me, I think the films are in the correct placement already. I like Belfast because it's the shortest. And at the same time, you have Trina Balfe and Janie Dornan. And I would rather watch Belfast rather than two people driving and Timothy Chalamet in a sand dune with a worm. So for me, that's fine. What about you?
I mean, the crazy thing to me is that you could literally put these three movies in any order and it doesn't make any difference to me, really. I agree with you. Out of the three of these, Belfast is probably the one that I would be most willing to rewatch. But like, I think that they all have strengths and weaknesses. So that is a fine ranking to me. I don't even feel passionately about this category.
And I also have the same thoughts for Had Potential because, as I said, I don't like Nightmare Alley. And there are a lot of things in Don't Look Up that I really, really like. I mean, Jen and Leo's dynamic and the thematic underpinnings of this movie. Let's not forget Ariana Grande. So I think Don't Look Up was much more entertaining and to some extent crowd pleasing compared to the Nightmare Alley. So I'm fine with the arrangement also and Had Potential. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, personally, I have Nightmare Alley higher in my ranking than Don't Look Up. But I'm willing to compromise, so we'll just...
Now, for Slays, I think that out of these three films, the one that I will probably rewatch the list is King Richard. What about you?
Oh, same. To me, I think that this should probably go in reverse order, where it's West Side Story, Coda, King Richard. Because West Side Story and Coda are movies that I see myself like actively seeking out to rewatch, time and time again. King Richard is one where I see myself watching it like here and there, but not nearly as much as West Side Story or Coda. So I think that this is the right lineup for me.
And of course, we have The Power of the Dog. I want to win every award it was nominated for during
I'm having an Oscar party at my apartment, and the way that I'm just going to completely shriek every time The Power of the Dog wins something, I sent out little invitations to my friends, and I put two stipulations. One, to be able to get in the doors, you have to be voting, or not voting, but you have to be rooting for Kristen Stewart to win Best Actress. If you're not, you can't come to the party.
That's so
And number
cool.
two, the password to get in is Bronco Henry. So every time that someone knocks, I'm going to be like, what's the password? And they have to say Bronco Henry or they're not coming in my apartment. So
That's so cool. So now that we ranked all the best picture nominees of 2021, I wanted to ask you, what are your top five films of 2021?
that's a great question. So my top five. So number one is Spencer. Of course, to me, Spencer isn't even like a 2021 movie. Spencer is a movie that has existed forever, will exist forever. A movie that I will watch 5 times a year at least, probably more. Spencer is literally, I think I said this on the last one, but when we were talking about Kristen Stewart, but it's in my top three favorite movies of all time,
Mhm.
potentially contending for number one along with Scream 4. So I
Oh
don't
my
know. Those
God.
are the top two. But I just love Spencer. Like, I don't know why. I just think that it's so fucking good. So Spencer's number one. The Power of the Dog is number two.
Mhm.
West Side Story is number three. Zola is number four. If y'all haven't seen Zola, it's so funny. I feel like it
Haven't watched it yet.
definitely could have and should have gotten some Oscar love, especially Coleman Domingo for supporting actor. If I could have one person that I would put into the acting races here, it would be Coleman. I thought that he was just so good in that movie. And then
Mhm.
number five was Tick Tick Boom.
Oh, interesting. For me, my number five is West Side Story. For the fourth is The Power of the Dog. And for the third is Fear Street 1666. I'm not
Uh,
ashamed to include a horror film like Fear Street 1666. I mean, the entire
yeah,
trilogy. The entire
Fear
trilogy
Street
is from.
1666 is my number six. I was looking. I have a
Okay.
letterbox ranking that I rank every new release that comes out every year. I rank them as they go.
Yeah.
And I have Fear Street 1666 as number six. So it was like right there for me.
With Fear Street 1666 in number three, number two is Spencer. And my number one is Worst Person in the World.
Wow. We didn't even
Yeah.
get to talk about it either. Do you have
Yeah.
anything you want to say about it?
I just love how the characters, they are not white, they are not black, they're just gray. I like how despite they are not being perfect, we can certainly see their flaws and their eccentricities. They're so human. They are toxic, they are intoxicating, and it's just mesmerizing. I mean, Licorice Pizza is dominating the best original screenplay so far. Personally, I want to award it to the worst person in the world. It's just so gut wrenching and at the same time very real.
I was gonna ask, what's your favorite best original screenplay win?
Parasite for me.
Parasite. Probably, I would
It
say the same.
it completely caught me off guard, especially in the final third.
Yeah, I will never forget because I saw Parasite in theaters, and of course you think it's one thing, and then like it's like ends up being a different thing, and then it ends up being a different thing from that. And so it's like basically like you're watching three different movies within like the
Yes.
time span.
Mhm.
And my mind was blown watching that movie. Like I was just like, this is cinema.
Yeah, me too. This is one of the best films ever made. Back to the worst person in the world. I would have loved it to see nominated in picture as well, and of course the lead, the actor and the actress as well. I mean,
Yeah. I I feel like it was close. I feel like it probably the actress, I cannot think of her name. But I feel like she probably was pretty close to getting in there. I'm sure she got some votes, and I feel like it
yeah,
probably was pretty close to getting in picture just because it got that screenplay nom that, I feel like we shouldn't take that lightly. So I feel like it was probably close to getting a few more noms, and I would have liked to see it get more. Because it definitely is a very original, and it's a movie that you can resonate with.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's so relatable.
That film made me reconsider some of my choices in life, whether it was a good or a bad person. I mean,
Yeah, right.
that's when you know how powerful and impactful a movie is when it starts to made you question about yourself. So for me, the worst person in the world. But again, my top five, your top five, all of them are so good. All of them made 2021 really a banner year when it comes to movies. It's not as strong as 2019 and even 2017. I wish the Academy noticed some of them, especially Fear Street and Tick Tick Boom. Not only in the acting, but also in picture as well.
I would say if I could sub one, I was trying to think if I could sub in one movie, it would be Tick Tick Boom instead of Licorice Pizza. But I also want to give a quick shout out to the movie Passing, which was also
Oh my
amazing and should have
god.
gotten a ton of noms, and it just didn't, which is so sad. I
So,
mean, this is fine. Out of the 10, there were six that I would say that I liked, which are our top six. The not our fave category are fine to me. And then Licorice Pizza, I just hate. So I feel like if 6 out of 10, I could say that I genuinely like them. I think that, I mean, that's more than half. So it's not the strongest lineup ever, but I think that there are, some good movies in there. Just not a. I think that The Power of the Dog is the only one that you could say could be considered like a goat movie.
yeah. Yeah.
And the rest are all just good.
Yeah. I really love that I did this three series with you. I didn't expect that finally our plan materialized despite our schedules, our
I know.
different differences in
Our
timeline.
14-hour time difference.
Yeah, and the fact that we were pretty exhausted. I mean, you just woke up and I finished my master's classes. I really, really, really was happy and gratified that I made this with you. I mean, I wish Shay joined some other time. This series that we did really made me so fulfilled, contented, and pleased. It's really lovely talking about cinema. And I also
Yeah.
got to share some of my thoughts with you. I mean, who would have thought that we would collaborate? Channel's more of horror and I'm more scattered when it comes to my stuff. But I just like that finally we had started our Oscar series.
You know,
Thank you,
hey, I
Wes.
mean, there's so many Oscar movies. You know, this doesn't have to
Yeah,
be the end. Like we could do some other stuff. I'm not
yeah,
opposed. So
yeah.
I'm definitely not opposed. Especially like specifically, I always like the Best Actress race. So potentially, maybe we could do some
Me
Best
too.
Actress rankings down the line. I think that would be fun.
Yeah.
Or some more Best Picture
Eh,
rankings. So
mhm.
this isn't the end.
Yeah, of course. So that's it. Thank you very much, Wes. Again, I really, really
No, thank
enjoyed
you.
our yeah, I really enjoyed our series together. So good night, Wes, and good morning there in
I
America.
was gonna say
So
good morning to you.
so yeah, thank you very much, and hoping to have more collaborations with you.
Yes. Oh, we will. We definitely will.
Yeah, okay. Bye, Wes. Thank
All
you.
right. Talk to you later. Thank you.